A millionaire accused a cleaning lady of stealing his $50,000 Rolex. But what he didn't know, she used to be a private investigator. What started as a humiliating false accusation turned into a public downfall that destroyed his reputation, career, and marriage. And the woman he tried to silence, she became one of the most respected investigators in the country. This is not just a story of injustice, it's a story of what happens when you underestimate the wrong woman. A black woman stepped in to clean and saw a baby sobbing helplessly. But when the millionaire saw his son calm down, he changed. Just not the way you'd expect. "Where's my Rolex?" Richard Blackstone's voice thundered through the penthouse like a storm. His furious gaze swept across the nearly 3,000 square foot luxury apartment before locking onto Monica, the woman silently organizing cleaning supplies near the corner. The 32-year-old cleaner paused, turning to face him squarely. "I don't know anything about the watch, Mr. Blackstone. Don't lie to me," Richard stormed toward her, face flushed with rage. "You're the only one who entered my dressing room today. A $50,000 Submariner doesn't just disappear." Monica straightened, still holding a damp cloth in one hand. 5 years working for elite cleaning services had taught her how to handle difficult clients. But something in Richard's tone today felt different, colder, more personal. "If you'd like, I can open my bag. You're welcome to check." Her voice was calm, even as a familiar wave of indignation rose inside her, the kind that came every time someone accused her without cause. Richard sneered, pulling out his phone. "Oh, you'll open it all right. And the police will be here too. People like you always think you can take advantage of people like me." Just then, a piercing cry rang out from the next room, his 6-month-old son, Thomas, wailing so violently that Monica instinctively winced. This wasn't hunger or tiredness, it was deeper, panicked. "Your son's crying," she said softly. Richard didn't even glance toward the nursery. "There's a nanny. Now open the bag." But the screaming intensified. Monica couldn't ignore it anymore. Despite strict company policy, she stepped toward the nursery, and what she saw made her freeze. Thomas was lying alone, diaper soaked, face beet red, eyes swollen from hours of non-stop crying. There was no nanny. "Hey there, sweetheart," Monica murmured, stepping closer. The maternal instinct, sharpened from years of caring for her nephew back in Jamaica, kicked in instantly. She checked him, cleaned him up, changed his diaper, then lifted him gently into her arms. Within seconds, Thomas stopped crying. He curled into her chest, as if he'd finally found something safe. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Richard stood at the doorway, phone still clutched in his hand. "Put my son down. Now." Monica calmly handed Thomas back to him. But the moment the baby was in his father's arms, the screaming returned louder than ever. Richard tried to comfort him, rocking him, murmuring softly, but nothing worked. Thomas thrashed, crying harder. "I don't understand," Richard muttered, clearly overwhelmed. "Babies can sense stress," Monica said gently. "When adults are angry or tense, they feel it too." For a moment, Richard stared at her, something flickering in his eyes. Curiosity, perhaps even respect. But just as quickly, the arrogance returned. "Well, isn't that convenient?" he said dryly. "The one being accused of theft just happens to be the only person who can calm my son. What a perfect little setup." Monica inhaled deeply. She had endured years of suspicion and veiled insults, but this time this moment was different. This time she wasn't going to stay silent. "Mr. Blackstone," she said, her voice cool but firm, "I didn't steal your watch. And if you're planning to accuse me without evidence, then go ahead. Call the police. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to investigate everything." Richard paused for a moment. There was something in Monica's calmness, in the way she looked directly at him, that unsettled him, as if she knew something he didn't. "That's right," Monica continued, casually organizing her supplies. "A full investigation, security cameras, entry logs, elevator data, the whole thing." Richard watched her work. Every movement was precise, deliberate, like someone with nothing to hide. Worse than that, like someone who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. What Richard didn't realize was that his false accusation had just awakened a part of Monica, a part that had been sleeping for years. And when you underestimate someone who's already survived worse storms than this, you're not just making a mistake. You're signing your own death sentence. For a few seconds, Monica's unshakable composure made Richard uneasy. But then the old arrogance returned, swallowing any flicker of doubt. He completely misread her stillness. A full investigation, Richard scoffed. Even better, the more evidence, the better. He flicked through his phone, furiously typing. I'll be sending a notice to the entire elite cleaning services management team. They need to know exactly what kind of employee they've got working for them. Monica kept tidying, though her jaw tightened slightly. She knew this script all too well. After 5 years working in the homes of the elite, she'd witnessed dozens of scenarios, just like this. Things vanish, only to magically reappear after the housekeeper is humiliated. In fact, Richard added his tone sharpening with each word. I think I'll take this to social media. Other homeowners should be warned about people like you. Something in the air shifted the moment he said that. Monica stopped entirely. She raised her head and stared directly at Richard. Her eyes were so cold, so cutting that he instinctively stepped back. People like me, she repeated slowly. Interesting choice of words. What kind of person would that be, Mr. Blackstone? Richard hesitated. He was just beginning to realize he'd wandered into dangerous territory, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. Someone who takes advantage of other people's trust. Someone who thinks they can just walk into someone's home and steal. Monica cut in. Is that what you're trying to say? Richard's phone buzzed. A text from his lawyer. Meeting canceled. Urgent family matter. He ignored it, too caught up in his own personal crusade to notice the first sign that this day was about to collapse. You know what's funny, Mr. Blackstone? Monica closed her folder with surgical precision. In 5 years working for families like yours, this is the first time I've ever been accused of stealing. It's the first time you've been caught, Richard snapped, full of disdain, or the first time something went missing, and the only black person in the room got blamed. Her voice was calm but icy. Richard swallowed hard. His phone buzzed again. This time 3 missed calls, all from the office. He still didn't answer. Listen. Richard stepped closer, trying to use his stature to intimidate Monica. I've dealt with too many women like you. All proper and polished on the outside, but inside. Inside what? Monica turned fully to face him. For the first time, Richard saw something in her eyes that made him question whether he'd picked the right woman to belittle. Thomas's cries echoed again from the bedroom, but this time neither of them moved. The air in the apartment turned still heavy, frozen. Let me tell you about women like me, Monica said, picking up her purse. We grew up believing one thing: the truth always comes out. Always. And when it does, liars pay a very steep price. Richard forced a chuckle. Is that a threat? No, Monica replied calmly. Just a reminder of how the world works. She walked toward the door. Oh, and one more thing, Mr. Blackstone, you might want to check your pockets and your car. Men like you have a habit of blaming others for the messes they create. Right then, Richard's phone started buzzing like mad. 12 unread messages, 3 missed calls, all from the office. Where do you think you're going? Richard shouted after her. The police are on their way. Good. Monica turned and smiled for the first time. I like the police, especially when they check the building's security footage. Richard frowned. What footage? The cameras that record everything in the hallways, elevators, and parking lot, Monica replied. And they'll see me arriving at exactly 9 a.m. without ever leaving the premises. Her smile deepened, subtle, calculated. But what I'm really interested in, Mustab, is what the footage shows about where your watch actually disappeared. As Monica disappeared down the hallway, Richard broke out in a cold sweat. Not just because of what she'd said, but how she said it. As if she knew exactly what that footage would reveal. His hands trembling, Richard finally answered his phone. Mr. Blackstone. The investigator's voice was tense. We need to meet immediately. It concerns your wife. Richard's head spun. My wife? She's not even in the city. She's in Miami visiting her mother. That's precisely what we need to talk about. She's not in Miami. She's been in Las Vegas for 3 weeks with another man. The ground vanished beneath Richard's feet. That's impossible. She calls me every day. She does, the officer confirmed, from her phone using location masking apps. We have photos, hotel receipts, and additional evidence. While Richard struggled to comprehend, Monica exited the building and stood in the parking lot, calmly dialing her sister. Carmen, I need your help. You remember that self-defense course I took before moving to the States? Of course I remember. You were the top student in class. What's going on? I need you to get in touch with our old instructor, Detective Martinez. Tell him Monica Santos is calling in a professional favor. Monica, are you in trouble? Not yet. Monica smiled, eyes locked on the building's security camera feed. But someone will be soon. What no one knew was that before moving to the States, Monica had worked as a private investigator in Jamaica for 5 years. She wasn't just a maid. She was a woman with a degree in criminology, cleaning houses to help fund her graduate studies in forensic psychology. 30 minutes later, Detective Martinez called back. Monica Santos, my brightest student. What can I do for you? I need legal access to a building's security footage, and possibly to open a quiet investigation on someone named Richard Blackstone. Consider it done. How soon do you need it? Within 2 hours. Meanwhile, Richard was juggling two crises, the truth about his cheating wife and the police showing up to investigate the alleged watch theft. Detectives Johnson and Rodriguez listened to Richard's statement, their expressions growing increasingly skeptical. So you're saying a maid stole your watch? Detective Johnson jotted something down. She was the only one who entered my dressing room today. When was the last time you actually saw the watch? Rodriguez asked. Richard hesitated. Truth was, he didn't remember. Meetings, business trips, the nanny situation, it was all a blur. I always leave it on my nightstand. Always. You're certain about that? Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Just then, Richard's phone rang again. His private lawyer, Richard, I just got a strange call. Someone's been asking questions about you at the office, about how you treat your staff. Are you being investigated? Richard's stomach nodded. What kind of questions? Whether you've ever been accused of racism, if there have been any complaints in the past. Hello, Richard. The call cut off. Richard called back, but it went straight to voicemail. While the detectives continued their inquiry, Johnson received a text. Mr. Blackstone, he said, we just got a report from the building's security team. They confirmed the cleaning staff entered at 9:00 a.m. and did not leave the premises during that time. And the problem is, Richard snapped, voice sharp. The problem, Rodriguez continued, is that the cameras also show you leaving the building at 11:45 p.m. last night and returning at 8:15 this morning. Richard began to sweat. That doesn't prove anything. Actually, it does. Johnson pulled out a small plastic evidence bag. Security found this under your car, a Rolex watch. You dropped it when you stepped out of your vehicle last night. The humiliation was complete. Richard had falsely accused an innocent woman, while he himself had carelessly lost the watch. But the worst part was still to come. Richard Blackstone thought today's shame was merely personal. He had no idea Monica Santos wasn't alone. An hour later, Monica's phone rang. It was Detective Martinez, this time his voice buzzing with excitement. Monica, you won't believe what I just dug up on Richard Blackstone. I'm listening. He's been sued 3 times for racial discrimination in the past 5 years. Every case was settled out of court, all with hush agreements. Anything else? There's more. Martinez's voice dropped low. His company is under investigation by the IRS for tax evasion. From what I can see, he's about to lose everything. His wife, getting ready to file for divorce, and she wants half of everything. The man is spiraling. Monica went quiet. Richard Blackstone wasn't just a racist. He was a panicking racist, and that's the most dangerous kind. Detective Martinez, Monica said firmly, I need your help with one more thing. Anything. You still got connections in investigative journalism? Sure. Why? Because, Bikay, there's a story that needs telling, and this time, it's going to be told right. That evening, while Richard sat alone in his home after the police had left, he stared at the watch they'd recovered. For a brief moment, he considered calling the cleaning company and apologizing to Monica. But then the roar of his wounded pride silenced the thought. She might have proven she didn't steal the watch, Richard muttered. But at the end of the day, she's just a cleaner. What can she do to me? That question was about to be answered, and it would be the most painful answer of his life. The next afternoon, Richard was doing everything he could to regain control, like a desperate captain trying to patch up the sinking Titanic. His wife wasn't answering his calls. His personal lawyer vanished without a trace. His three biggest clients all pulled their contracts after receiving an anonymous tip packed with disturbing allegations about Richard's treatment of black employees. At exactly 5 p.m., Richard's phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Blackstone," a female voice rang out. "This is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7's Investigative Reports. We're working on a segment about racial discrimination in the workplace, and we'd like your response to a number of serious allegations." "Allegations," Richard broke out in a cold sweat. "We have documentation showing 3 lawsuits involving you over the past 5 years, all settled with generous payouts and strict confidentiality clauses. And today we received a highly detailed audio recording involving an Afro-Jamaican employee." Richard hung up immediately, but his phone rang again almost instantly. This time it was Marcus, a senior partner at the firm. "Richard, what the hell is going on?" "The news is calling the office. They're asking about discrimination allegations. Someone's claiming you have a long history of mistreating black employees." Richard had no answer. There was nothing left to defend. Meanwhile, Monica sat calmly in an upscale cafe just 3 blocks away, sipping her latte across from Detective Martinez and a woman with a sharply authoritative presence. "Monica," he introduced, "this is Dr. Patricia Williams, one of the top civil rights attorneys in the country." Dr. Williams opened a thick case file. "Ms. Santos, your situation is nearly identical to 3 women who previously sued Mr. Blackstone, all women of color, all completely framed, threatened, and publicly humiliated." "But there's one crucial difference," she smiled. "You recorded everything in real time." "Was this your plan from the beginning?" she asked. Monica smiled for the first time in weeks. "Not at first, but when I recognized the pattern in his behavior, I started protecting myself. Private investigators in Jamaica don't forget how to stay safe." "The remarkable part," Martinez added, "is that she even enabled auto-recording every time she entered his home." Dr. Williams pulled out another folder. "We also obtained footage from the building's security system. It clearly contradicts his story to the police about the timing who came and went, and where the missing watch was last seen." At that very moment, the board of directors at the company had called an emergency meeting. Chairwoman Margaret Chun stared straight at Richard. "We've just been presented with a disturbing package containing the prior lawsuits and a full audio record of today's incident." "No. No way. This is a misunderstanding. You accused a female employee because of her skin color, one board member cut in, and the entire conversation was recorded, 37 minutes, crystal clear audio." Margaret slid a tablet across the table. On the screen, Richard's own voice played back. "People like you always think you can take advantage of hardworking men like me. I've been dealing with your kind my whole life." Richard went pale. "This was edited. That's not what I meant." "Really?" Margaret raised an eyebrow, tapping to play the next clip. "I'll make sure no employer ever hires someone like you again." Richard's phone buzzed once more. 7:00 p.m. Special report revealing shocking acts of racial discrimination by a senior executive. Margaret snapped the tablet shut with a cold click. "The board has reached a decision. You're suspended indefinitely, and here's our advice. Get a lawyer, immediately." 7:00 p.m. Richard sat alone in his penthouse apartment watching his life unravel live on national television. A scandal shaking the corporate world, reported anchor Jennifer Walsh. Exclusive recordings exposed the systemic racism of Richard Blackstone, a top executive at one of the city's largest investment firms. The audio played in full. Every insult, every threat, every condescending word echoed across the nation. 9:00 p.m. His wife Victoria finally called. "Richard, I'm watching the news. From my hotel in Las Vegas, my lawyer says, this changes everything in the divorce. Victoria, please listen to me." "Don't bother. For years I stayed silent through your jokes about the staff about people of color. I thought it was immaturity. But today, everything's clear. You can't leave me now. Not only am I leaving, I'm taking 50% including your shares. Because after tonight, who's going to do business with a man whose voice is now synonymous with hate?" While Richard crumbled in the ruins of his reputation, Monica was quietly preparing dinner at home. Her phone rang. It was Detective Martinez. "Monica, good news. the Federal Civil Rights Division is officially opening an investigation into his company, and the IRS just accelerated its audit now that the story's gone public. Also, Dr. Williams just reopened all three of her previous lawsuits. Monica smiled a real smile this time. 6 months later, Monica Santos sat in her own office on the 23rd floor of Chen & Associates, one of the world's top private security and investigation firms. Through the wide glass window, the entire city stretched out before her like a canvas of opportunity and freedom. Just a year ago, she was scrubbing luxury apartments. Today, she led a team of 12 investigators. Miss Santos, her assistant, buzzed in through the intercom. "Jennifer Walsh is here to interview you about your Civil Rights Defender of the Year award." The recognition felt like a gift, but really Monica's courage to record, expose, and fight back had sparked a movement. A movement that inspired countless others to speak up. That forced the law to evolve. That made the powerful reconsider how they treat the silent workers around them. Jennifer entered with a bright, respectful smile. "How does it feel knowing your story changed labor protection laws for domestic workers?" Monica smiled, calm, resolute. "It feels right, but not surprising. Because the truth always finds its way, especially when someone's brave enough to give it a push." That quote would later be printed on posters at civil rights conferences across the country. And Monica's investigation firm would become a symbol of justice after the Blackstone scandal. Several major corporations approached her requesting internal audits regarding discrimination practices. Each contract paid 10 times her former salary as a cleaner. Meanwhile, across the city, Richard Blackstone was pushing a shopping cart through a low-end supermarket, his face weary and vacant. His downfall had been absolute. Fired from the company. Victoria divorced him and took half his estate. No firm dared to hire Richard again, not after his name had become the symbol of corporate injustice. He sold the penthouse to cover legal fees. Now Richard lived in a cramped rental on the outskirts of the city, doing odd jobs just to get by. One day, during a rare supervised visit with his son, Thomas, now 3 years old, the child looked up and asked Daddy, "Why was that lady on TV talking about you?" Richard had no answer. Channel 7 still regularly re-aired Monica's story as part of a special series on justice and hope. That afternoon, Monica received an unexpected call. "Ms. Santos, this is Dr. Patricia Williams. I've got rather interesting news." "What news, Richard Blackstone?" "Just applied for a position at my law firm." Monica chuckled, a soft laugh, but heavy with weight. Really naturally, he was rejected. "But I thought you should know he mentioned your name during the interview." "He did. He said he learned a great lesson and that he deeply respects your professionalism." Monica laughed louder this time, a sound laced with both bitterness and quiet satisfaction. "He respects my professionalism," she repeated slowly. "That's interesting. Learned how to respect others. Just a little too late." Monica's transformation wasn't limited to her career. She bought a beautiful home for her mother back in Jamaica, paid college tuition for 3 of her nephews, and founded a foundation for the protection of workers facing discrimination. Her recent cases included exposing a labor exploitation ring in several multi-million-dollar estates, investigating a network of wealthy landlords who shared a blacklist of black employees. 3 days later, during a guest lecture at a university, a student raised their hand. "Ms. Santos, have you ever wanted to personally get revenge on the one who humiliated you?" Monica paused, then answered gently, "Personal revenge, no. Because the best revenge is building something so much greater than they could ever imagine. He lost everything because of his prejudice. And I gained a career, a mission, and the joy of knowing my story is now protecting thousands of others." The entire hall erupted in applause. Monica Santos had become a symbol of justice, born from injustice, a woman once underestimated, now standing at the very top. That evening, after reviewing a few contracts awaiting her signature, Monica received a message on LinkedIn. It was from a young black attorney. She wrote, "Ms. Santos, your story inspired me not to give up even when I was facing discrimination at work. Today I got promoted. Thank you for showing me that truth and determination. Always win." Monica closed her phone and smiled. This was the true measure of success. Not just in personal achievements, but in how many others found their light because you dared to hold on to yours in the dark. Richard Blackstone once tried to destroy a woman simply because of the color of her skin. But in doing so, he handed her every tool she needed to build an empire and burn his arrogance to ashes. Sometimes revenge isn't about bringing someone down. It's about building a future where they simply no longer matter. Richard once sneered, "You're just the cleaning lady." But in the end, it was she, the one most dismissed, who became the most respected investigator in the country. If Monica's story inspired you, don't forget to share your own journey. Have you ever had to prove your worth to someone who once looked down on you? Her story reminds us where you come from doesn't decide your fate, only your will does. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed a relaxing and captivating storytelling experience. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support gives me the motivation to create more amazing content.